Hello, what is up everyone? It is I am the one and only Maxi here, and I am back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And I do apologize for the actual a 3 days delay after Tuesday. Well, mainly it's because I'll explain more about it until when we get this thing started. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Wario Land 2 for the Game Boy/Game Boy Color. So last time we have managed to able to completely done with the final alternative chapter, which takes place in Uncanny Mansion. And oh no, that's actually a pretty, an alright world actually. But despite the forms of several mistakes, mainly due to annoying ghosts here and there, which actually forces me to transform to Zombie Wario, but regardless of such, I did that okay enough. So today, this will be the grand finale of Wario Land 2 Let's Play, and because of that, once you obtain all the treasures in the game, well specifically all the treasures, in addition to all 50 pieces of the map, you do realize there's actually that one more treasure that we can get. That, as you can see on screen, that was actually on the far right of the screen. And what do I mean by that? Well, if we managed able to actually press the X button on my DualShock 4 controller, because yes, I say the X button because I've now finally able to actually access to my game controllers onto my laptop, which is pretty cool, and able to actually play the game on the emulator with my PlayStation 4 controller. So thankfully I don't need to worry about the forms of the keyboard controls because that was such a pain last time. So either way though, I think that I was able to do that for now, until specifically not only for this finale, but also until eventually whenever we get on to Wario Land 3. So but that'll be discussion until later for today. So anyways, let's get into the forms of the final chapter, because we're going to be going inside this Captain Syrup's vault, and this will lead us to the really final chapter, and it's basically a time attack, and the objective on this is to steal the Syrup's treasure. And basically, we need to make our way to this massive goblet of probably the trickiest platforming segments throughout the whole entire game, and it's by far the hardest stage in the game. Due to the fact that, well, thankfully you don't need to worry about collecting coins that much though, just because, well, as far as you guys can clearly notice, ever since in during the forms of Tuesday, they do realize that we've pretty much done with the forms of the treasure minigame, along with the forms of the number matching game. So it's just basically we have to go from point A to point B kind of syndrome basically now. So in this case though is the fact that we have to do the ridiculous amount of tricky platforming segments here and there. Especially noticeable that about the fact that, you remember when I mentioned it before, about the fact that I always have some issues with the forms of crouch jumping to the right. Kind of problem when it comes to using the keypad controls, or the keyboard I like to point things out for my laptop's sake. Well, thankfully, I don't have to deal with that issue anymore, because as I said, I'm be players on my PlayStation 4 controller. But unfortunately though, my laptop does not actually access to Bluetooth, so kind of a shame honestly, but regardless of such though, I am super happy about this. Especially noticeable that, well, again, as I said before, I don't need to worry about this painful setup anymore, because I soon need to realize that I still managed to get actually access to this Windows update. So this meaning that I can now able to actually use any controllers as I like to will be, like the PS4 controller for example, which I'm gonna say, it is really good, especially noticeable with the D-pad and everything. That is pretty good for certain Game Boy games, which as I said before, whenever we get on to Wario Land 3, I think that'll be the controller type I might as well use, so. But either way, that's not the reason we're going to be discussing for this point. Today's day is of course the 25th of June today, in this case in 2021, and it looks like that today, recently today, in everywhere around the world, basically Mario Golf Super Rush has recently came out today for the Nintendo Switch. I'm sure that Mighty the Armadillo will able to mention more about that game again, and especially noticeable, it does help me about the fact that recently I got myself a pre-order bonus with it. That's what appears to be a random water bottle, which I have no idea why I just managed to got that to begin with, but at least it's cool to able to actually give me myself let's just say an extra water bottle, just in case if there's going to be, the temperature is getting, like, increasing every now and then for this little heat wave and everything until the next few days, well, for the majority of July, most likely. And because of that, though, hopefully I should be able to actually drink lots during the course of the majority of the summer. So because of that, yeah, I'm actually quite happy to able to have that game. So even then, though, I might need to get a bit of practice on that game because it has been quite a long time, actually, since I did manage to play several of Mario Golf games. The last time I played is Mario Golf World Tour on the 3DS, along with the forms of Mario Sports Superstars. That's pretty much about it, because we haven't got a single Mario Golf game since then. Well, technically, if you want to count the sport on the golf sports game in the Sports Superstars on the 3DS. So, either way though, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves at this point right now, just because, well, as you no doubted by now, is the fact that, in addition that my room is actually getting slightly hotter today, but regardless of such though, I can still able to actually play myself Mario Golf Super Rush on the go. Then that way I can able to actually just able to play on the go, which is awesome. So anyway, aside from everything else though, that's as far as I can say. Well, apart from the fact that I can't even believe it's been about 10 days ago since when Nintendo E3 Nintendo Direct was a thing, and yeah, I can't even believe it's been 10 days ago. So because of that though, yeah, why is the time itself just gone quick all of a sudden? Which, that reminds me, I need to know now. Or maybe it's because if I've managed to play so many games for the time, then basically the time itself just managed to went, like, zooming, like, fast or anything else like that. So yeah, you probably get the idea about that. So anyways, let's go ahead and keep on doing this crouch jumping and stuff like that. And we need to use this enemy to bust out these little enemy blocks, as you can see right there. So again, you don't need to worry about collecting coins this time around, because we need to worry about just getting to the end of the level. And yeah, I do apologize for that belchiness at this point, folks, because again, I have to drink lots for, like, water, juices, or anything else like that. Some people will seem to say that water will be the better option, just because of hydration is usually worked out to be. So, at least I did manage to do that. So, anyway, oh god, this section right here. If I could imagine if I was gonna do this section with my keypad or my, you know, keyboard and everything else like that, I think that section will be a pain, along with the previous section as I've previously done, as in my first attempt, or technically the second attempt, because if you somehow mess things up beyond belief, if you accidentally manage to kill those enemies, then you're gonna have to exit out the same, you have to, you know, exit out the room and then trying to re-entering back into the same room again. So, although there's still some coins around here, but regardless of everything else though, we don't need to worry about them from now on, because basically, you know, we've collected every single treasure, and we've collected every single pieces of the map, which actually leads us to the final level in the game. Even though that's, well, it doesn't feel that harmful though. The only time it's incredibly harmful is the fact that you have to do the ridiculous amount of tricky platforming segments from time to time, mainly with this section right here, which can sometimes throws me off a bit. But regardless of everything else though, if you manage to time your jumps perfectly, then you would do it okay enough. But sometimes though, you're gonna have to deal with a lot of emphasis on timing, so. And sometimes several segments in this level can be broken up into a few segments. Like, we've already come across into, dang it. Yeah, because if you screwed this one up, and if you manage to let that enemy disappears or goes off screen, then you have to, like, go back to the previous room and enter the same room again if you managed to fail last time. So, yeah, keep that in mind, especially noticeable that the good thing that the enemies do respawn after every time when you manage to able to come across into, like, few mistakes or anything else like that in this level. But hey, at least that's something, I suppose. So, yeah, I'm very surprised that we've almost done with this game. It's just that we've got the last level. In addition to that, you're also able to actually unlock the bonus game, which you can able to play at any time. But here's the thing, though. You do need to pay 100 coins in order to able to actually play that game. Which I'll talk more about it later, because obviously I'm still focusing on this. And here we go to the next section, where we're gonna have to do a lot of emphasis on, well, dash and crouching at the same time for doing a sled jump, or some sort of like a sledding segments for several parts worth noting for. I do apologize that the actual commentary itself feels a bit, well, meh, because obviously I was gonna have to able to speak lots for today, but obviously because the weather itself is actually getting slightly hotter, but either way though, well, it wasn't until next month it gets ridiculously hotter, so... But anyway, let's go ahead and go for these little spiky objects, which, again, sometimes though, that the invincibility frames, if you get hit by any enemies, or any hazards for that matter, the invincibility frames doesn't last for long. Like, it only lasted for about a second or something, so either way though, you have to be ridiculously fast if you really want to able to avoid this stuff. And, yeah, that's pretty much how that goes, so... And this is what the actual, some of these later sections gets a bit tricky and difficult, mainly due to the fact that, well, you got to do a lot of thinking on this point, because otherwise, if you don't think carefully though, basically you're probably gonna have to able to learn, any kind of like, well, you know what I mean. So, in this next section right here, we have to force to able to transform into ourselves, flattened, or flat Wario, as what's known for this transformation, according to, the Mario Wikipedia page. And, basically, it's the fact that we need to make our way to that specific, at the end of that section, without even, like, getting touched by the drip from its mouth, little wall, and also there's going to be eyes and mouths to be able to actually drop those little drops on you, which, yeah, that makes sense. We're able to make the eye get a tear and everything, so either way though, I just get the horrible feeling that this section might take a bit of forever to able to actually go through, but again, it might actually took me a couple of practice when it comes to able to actually accomplishing this level, because I can imagine that if anyone's gonna able to have struggle with this level though, if they manage to able to play this on the keyboard, it will be a nightmare, because otherwise with the down right crouch jump, it's just kind of feels like a pain to me. But regardless of such though, I'm still managed to able to got myself the PS4 controller one, even though I have to able to connect it with the USB connector, which it did manage to work just fine, so at least that's quite possible, so... Now, I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this as well is that, well, I must be honest here, there's not much else I can speak of, apart from the fact that, well, we're getting towards the end of this game now, and especially noticeable until the next, well, let's say the next 3 months or so, then we can probably get into the forms of the next Wario Land game pretty much. Well, in terms of Wario platformer games as well. And, sure enough though, is the fact that we're pretty much at the halfway point in terms of the rest of the series. Well, that can be also say applies to, the Donkey Kong Country platformer games as well. Well, at least if you really want to count Donkey Kong Land Trilogy, which I might consider able to do one, well, after when we finish up with, like, God knows, Donkey Kong Country 3 or something? Well, we'll find out and see what happens during at some point in the next few days, or to be more specifically for the majority of the year, but again, we'll find out at some point, and along with the forms of the Game Boy Mega Man games as well, in addition to the forms of, well, some other Mega Man games here and there as well, which, hopefully we'll do another marathon of Mega Man stuff while, things goes all alright and everything, but either way though, this is not the way I'm supposed to go, because basically I keep on thinking of another level that you're gonna have to able to go for this little gap, but apparently this doesn't count, so... Yeah, again, this will take me a couple of minutes to able to actually complete this, which it might be seems true for circumstances anyway, for those of you ever first time experiencing this level though. Even though I was originally trying to able to complete this level on my original cartridge for, version of this game, but for whatever reason, I just always have struggled with that first, mainly because of how the fact that the first section might give you some confusion sometimes, mainly due to like labyrinthy kind of section, but above and those side of things though is the fact that once you try to figure out the actual correct path, then you would do it alright. So, in fact, I might actually go back into the original cartridge version kind of thing about it, until whenever we manage to able to complete the stage though. So either way though, yeah, there's not much else to tell, so... But yeah, that's as far as I can say in terms of the real final chapter, because otherwise, it's like a goblet of the trickier platforming sections throughout the whole game. So yeah, you probably get the gist of how, you know, how this level plays out to be. So, honestly, this is kind of a cool level, even though despite the fact that you have to do some of these difficult platforming segments from time to time. But if you get enough practice though, and I did not meant to able to get tripped by that little random drop there, but regardless of such, thankfully there's no way you can able to actually give up on this level though, although the only time you will give up on the level though is that if you're having some struggles with platforming skills every once in a while. But usually that seems to be the case. So anyways, let's go ahead and... Ah, dang it, I didn't do it properly. Hold on a second, let me just be very careful not to screw things up from here, not to get touched by the drip. Oh, I was literally so close to able to bypass this part. Now I do apologize if that specific flat Wario theme gets a bit repetitive every once in a while, but sometimes it just happens most of the time. So anyways, let's try this again. There we go. And we have to jump again, and there we go. We passed for this part. And then, if you think you've done, well, turns out there's actually that final section we can deal with. But before we do anything else, we'll break those little, breakable openings, so that way we can able to go back in there at any point. So... and here we go. By the end of that particular level, as you saw, we actually come across into another giant spearman again. Oh jeez, this game really loves this guy so much, especially noticeable how the fact that despite it was actually pretty easy and simple. However, it just makes things a bit challenging this time around, because every once in a while, you notice the little, well-hidden platforms as you saw from the actual, the background of the stage? Basically, it actually holds up the enemy, including a boss fight as well. So if you mess up one time, then basically you're now able to climb back up again. Thankfully, it's not too far, I don't think, though, so at least that's the only good thing. And, basically, once again, you have to able to stomp on him for about a few times until when he goes to red. And then when he goes to red, then you finish him off with the last 2 hits. Then you basically get yourselves, once again, the 100 coin silver coin. So, yeah, that's basically how it goes, basically. So, and in fact, if you screw up right there, well, basically, despite if you keep on hitting the actual, giant spearman to begin with, then the actual health regenerates every time you screw this up. So, it's kind of similar to the actual main bosses of the game, but, thankfully, though, we did manage to deal with it for reals. So... and while we're at it though, is the fact that we need to avoid those little, like, sharpie star-like objects. So, yeah, that's pretty much about it in terms of the really final chapter. So let's watch the true ending of the game, in this case, the 6th ending, because there are literally 6 endings of the game. So let's see what happens next, as soon as we make it for this whole entire goblet of tricky levels and all that stuff. So it turns out that Wario's activating the switch, which actually opens up the vault. And basically, he'll activate another switch, and this will actually triggers the way that we got ourselves the rest of Syrup's treasure. And oh man, that is a big cache of gold right there. Or, in this case, a huge bag of treasure. That's what Syrup is keeping a hold of. And yeah, that was pretty much about it in terms of how this ending works. I mean, usually, relatively speaking, it's just, well, we managed to claim Syrup's treasure at long last, and we pretty much go back into Wario's castle with it. So, yeah, that's how this ending works. So, yeah, and I think that's pretty much about it in terms of Wario Land 2 for the Game Boy / Game Boy Color. Let's give my final thoughts of Wario Land 2 before we move on to the last thing in this game, which appears to be this extra bonus game, assuming if you're able to complete the game or something, like, you know, 100% for everything and all that. I think this game is actually, to me though, is one of the greatest games ever. Likely due to the fact that this game has a lot of emphasis on exploration, and you don't need to worry about the time limit this time around, which is a good thing. Even though despite this game doesn't have that much power-ups anymore, but rather it's been replaced by transformations, which I do kind of like. Like, the zombie Wario is actually kind of cool, despite it's actually kind of annoying at times with this slow movement and everything, during the course of the Uncanny Mansion. But, regardless of such though, is the fact that I enjoyed the actual presentation of the game. It still looks pretty good, even for a Game Boy / Game Boy Color title, this game looks really dang good, even on the handheld nonetheless. The soundtrack is pretty swell stuff as well, and also the gameplay spot on, and especially noticeable, it would become staple in the future Wario Land games for, you know, Wario Land 3 and Wario Land 4, and even Wario Land Shake It, aka the Shake Dimension if you lived in Europe, and oh no, this is actually a really great game, and you should definitely recommend getting this game. You can either purchase this from either the original physical copy version, well, good luck trying to get the original cartridge for it, like a genuine cartridge, because otherwise you might come across into a rare, or in this case a common problem these days, is the fact that with the forms of fake reproduction in cartridges sometimes is that they might actually contain dead safe battery, so be cautious with that. Assuming if you're able to actually find this game a bit cheaper, which it might be seems cool for you. And the story itself is pretty simple, but basically you stop Captain Syrup once again, ever since the original game, which I do like. And well, unlike in Virtual Boy Wario Land, is that you actually gonna come across and able to escape the actual undergrounds of the caves or something like that. So, I digress. So, it looks like the giant spearman is trying to follow Wario the whole time. Although my guess is the fact that he wants to get that treasure back. Although I may be wrong, but I digress. And finally, the controls-wise, it looks really good. Like, even though it kind of feels a bit stiff at points for platforming and everything, but apart from that, it's so flawless with controls-wise. But, yeah, that's about it for Wario Land 2. And you can also get this on the 3DS eShop if you really want able to play that on the go on the 3DS, which that'll be the good option for you. Or if you're able to actually, if you don't have the, any of those consoles at all, then you can probably be able to download this on emulator. But a full warning, I highly recommend playing the game with the actual game controller rather than the actual keyboard controls, because I've already established that earlier on. I found it's way too finicky with the keyboard, so play it with the actual, like, any kind of game controller, like PS4 controller, or the Xbox One controller, or Series X controller, or even the Nintendo Switch controllers, or something like that. Any possibilities are endless, so yeah, that's pretty much about it for Wario Land 2. But as I said, we're not gonna end off this Let's Play just yet though, because there is actually that one last extra thing we can show off. But that's, you know, as I said before, we'll show off the actual, the bonus game we can show off. So, yeah, let's see this little, result thing for the final time. So, as you can see, we're pretty much 100% cleared for stages. And also say applies to treasures, and even the picture panel right here. And since we've completed the really final chapter, the final stage, it actually tells you how much time you actually spend on. So in this case, I spent about 14 minutes and 31 seconds. So, and also we got ourselves a spinning star as well. So, yeah, that seems cool. And, yeah, that's about it. Now, if you're probably wondering, what is up with the actual skulls, as you saw on the actual treasure map? This meaning about the fact that that's what the bosses are located. So, it's kind of pointless to be able to show that off, honestly, because I've obviously already completed the game, so I need to reset my game, because otherwise it'll be unskippable. So, because this is obviously on emulator, so, hopefully I might as well do that, the only time I will do that. And let's show off this little bonus game, which appears to be Flagman D-D. Kind of interesting to say the least. So basically, in this particular bonus game, as I said, you can have to pay 100 coins in order to able to play the game. So in this case, though, you can able to actually play this game anytime. So because of that, your objective in this particular bonus game is pretty simple. Basically, you have to able to, well, do some sort of like a Simon Says kind of game. Like, you got to press any of those button sequences. Like, you can either use the directional pad, A or B buttons, or as for my customizable controller configuration I just managed to go for, D-pad or X or circle. Well, usually I just place, I would say circle button as in B button, and then the X button for the A button, because I'm pretty much used to with that. So, anyway, yeah, it's basically you would be able to actually do a Simon Says kind of, game, and that's pretty much about it. It goes endless though if you manage to screw up like 3 times, and then if you screw up 3 times, then the game itself is pretty much over. So, yeah, that's the only rewards you can get if you manage to able to, like, collected everything, and plus the final stage in the game as well. So, yeah, not much right to hum about, aside from the fact that just curiosity's sake, and also for some, you know, distractions, I suppose. But, hey, at least you do manage to able to actually just to, well, play this game. So, anywho. But yeah, that's as far as I can say in terms of Wario Land 2. As far as the actual game itself, it's fantastic, and overall, you should definitely still recommend getting this. Especially noticeable that if you have the 3DS or the Game Boy Advance SP for a physical version, or you can download this on the emulator if you want. So as long as you don't come across into any other like virus hacks or anything else like that. So but I digress. This is such a really great title, and it still is probably my favorite game in terms of the Wario Land series of games, honestly. But either way, though, it knows what it stands for. So either way, though. Oh yeah, by the way, if you get onto the next few levels, basically this little blue fellow over there, down onto the B stand, I'm presuming that's what that is going for anyway. Basically, he decides to join with you with it. And the game will progressively get a bit harder due to the amount of speed, and also a lot of memorization as well. So, but again, if you screw up 3 times, then the game is pretty much over. So yeah, that's as far as I can show off Flagman D-D. It's actually a pretty cool minigame if you have a bit of a distraction time. So, yeah, that's about it. So, and again, you have to pay like 100 coins if you really want to play this game over and over and over again. So, it's one classify that. So, and that was it, ladies and gentlemen. That was it for our Let's Play of Wario Land 2. So, hope you guys do enjoy this Let's Play, because I surely do, as always, and also for you guys out there. So, either way, though, this is me, Maxi, from the likes of the Maxi Toys. And up next, in terms of the Wario Land series of Let's Plays, up next, it will be, of course, Wario Land 3 for the Game Boy Color. So it's going to be a Game Boy Color exclusive. So I'll see you guys until that time comes. So see you then. Bye.